And we're back with Chief Tracy and Mayor Purzycki talking about the factors that have led to this incredible decrease in crime in the city of Wilmington. The next factor that we want to talk about is directed patrols. So that sounds pretty generic, but what is that? What is directed patrols?
Well, this is where, when we talked about in the first two segments, CompStat, intelligence-led policing, there's things that we know where crime's going to happen, we know who's going to commit the crimes, where they're committing the crimes, and where certain people live. So we want to make sure that we have those officers in those places. And when I first came to Wilmington, I was told we didn't have enough police officers and we don't have time to do all these other things, community meetings, do directed patrols, foot posts. But when you do a workload analysis of the department, you find there's 30 to 40% of the time that our officers are waiting for a calls for service. And in the past, we measured our officers, how fast do you get to a calls for service? So we kind of got ourselves wrapped around the axle with technology. So there's a nice balance that if you have an 11-hour tour, take out 1 hour for meal, that's 10 hours, let's do the math, make it easy. If 30–40% of your time is waiting for a calls for service, that could be up to 4 hours. What are you doing during those 4 hours? Well, we're going to help them decide what they're going to do. We're going to be in the places where we know crime is going to happen. And then when we get into the community engagement part about community meetings, we go to every community meeting in this city, and the same officers go and the same captains. And then the community tells us where the issues that they're having. And then I want my officers, through intelligence-led policing, being in areas and where the community wants us to walk foot posts. So we put them in those areas, they get out of the car, they walk, they put their hats on, they look good. And how much more approachable is an officer when he's standing on foot than he is when he's sitting in a car with the car window rolled up? First, in the summertime with the air conditioning on, and or in the wintertime with the heat on. I want my officers out of the car, engaged, seen, standing out there, and that has made a real big difference of being approachable in the community, seeing them out there with them.
I want to remind you that prior to my coming in office, there was a matter of great dispute with the General Assembly. The General Assembly had $1.5 million to give to the city for overtime. Right. But a condition of the $1.5 million was that the then mayor had to disclose where the officers were at any given time, and he wouldn't be willing to do that. The concern was that we didn't have enough police officers out on the street. It was pretty conspicuous in the minds of people. We don't see police officers. Right. And then after the chief came on board, I remember people saying to me, "Boy, you must have really hired a lot more police officers." Mm-hmm. I said, "No, we didn't. They're deployed. They're out there and deployed." And nobody ever complains to me that I don't see any police officers. They're almost amazed that they see as many as they do. It's kind of hard to drive 3 or 4 blocks without seeing a black and white go by.
I can honestly say that. Just running around in the early 2016, just a little bit, a minute amount of police officers that you would see in the community, and now it's like every block you turn, there goes someone, and there go a couple, they're walking. So I definitely notice a difference with it.
And the directed patrols is about making sure that all of the information that you're collecting from those other things are known to the police officers, so when they know where to go. They don't just kind of fall into patterns that aren't based on the data that you guys have collected.
Right, and officers, they're going to do the best that they can, but I don't want them working in silos. I want to work as a team. I want to work with clear communication that we're working all together for a common goal. So when they go out and at the roll calls, there's assignments in between calls for service that we want them there. They'll put themselves on the radio so we can hold them accountable to being out there. And they've embraced this because this is a lot of things that our officers wanted to do, and there was nothing malicious that was done. It's just different type of strategies and methodologies that that have been done not just here but in other places, that you really got to change the culture of the way we do things, and then you have to stay to the plan, and you got to be consistency, and that's what officers look for. And when we stay with the plan and we're with them, and I'll drive by and I see the officers, I'm out there, I'll get out and walk with them and ask them how they're doing, what's going on. They love it. They really love this. They like that sense of regiment and knowing what they're going to do even in between those calls for service.
And do you have any stories? Do you have any stories of where this has worked? Like any anecdotes?
Well, I think
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. I'll tell you what's impressive to me, and I'd like you to expand on this. I don't know how many times the chief has talked to me about an incident that occurred where the police officers were literally half a block or a block away from a shooting or a matter of law breaking, they were there.
Yeah.
And so the whole time I'm thinking, I said, well, that must be basically putting people in places where you're likely to find this kind of.
So when you do that, it definitely increases your response time.
Yes.
More than anything.
Yes, and you don't have to be in a patrol car for your response time. If you work in the same area, every time you go out, you're only walking maybe a block away from your car. A lot of times things are happening on foot. You can walk right to it. We're going to put a press release, and it's funny. I have a police policy and communications director, David Garris, with us here today. On the way over, he says, "Chief, I want to put this out, this out, this out."
Right.
So he wanted to talk about 2 officers that were doing directed patrol, where there was a shots fired call, nobody was hit.
Right.
They seen someone running from the scene. They chased the individual who's running, and they recovered a firearm that he had just shot at somebody else at a scene in West Center City, and this was only a few days ago. Right. So it shows that we have the officers in the right place. They're working intelligence-led policing. I'm not sure if the community asks us to be over there, but there are areas where the community asks us to be,
right.
and we balance that, and you know, we're listening to the community.
Right.
When they ask us to be in places, and that's how you build trust. If you're responding what their needs are and what they're asking, you know, we're not going to solve all the issues overnight, but if we could be partners and work together, you know, that's what people are asking us, to at least listen, care, and try to work with them.
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any positive stories that Zach and myself need to talk about, be sure to submit it at stories.wilmington.love.